And then
Now, where do you get your fire safety equipment from?
uh, right now I'm getting Impact. I use Impact belts. I have a Simpson suit, but it's about shot. I'm thinking about getting a Sparco. I put a Sparco suit on a couple of years ago, at the manufacturer's Midway. They felt really good. Jeff Heffler's got a new fire suit coming out, so I was thinking about checking that out. I know he's making problems that weekend. The car, we had to have a shifter, instead of the box shifting it, you had to have a separate module to shift the car, and that thing burned out on me, and I had to call him, and I was just kind of down on my luck because I was taking time off work, and I'm like, dude, what am I even doing here, And lo and behold, I won the event, which kind of surprised myself more than anything. But, and that wasn't, it just, growing up there at Pomona, and, so that was a really big thing for me. Winning 7 national events was pretty cool. I finished in the top 10 in the world one year, finished 6th. That was pretty cool. That year I finished in 6th place. If I would have had 2 more points, I would have finished 2nd. That's how tight the points were that year. So that was a pretty cool deal. Winning Chris Forsythe's race, because you kind of prove yourself as a bracket racer, I guess. And then, I'd really like to win one of these bigger dollar bracket races back east. That'd definitely be a feather in your hat. It's just, when you win something, you feel like you've accomplished, made an accomplishment. If I can win one of the big dollar bracket races back there, I think that would be, like I said, a feather in your hat, because them guys back there, there's no slouches. They're all really good, especially the Spring Fling Million this year. There's a bunch of sharks out there. And, so if I could, do good at them races, I feel really good. But, I think that would be a really good milestone there. I raced the U.S. Nationals one year, and I thought that was a milestone, but I don't know. After being there and racing it, there was a day that we didn't even race, I went back there and raced Super Gas. Now, if you go back there and run like a fuel car or something like that, I'm sure it's a really exciting thing to do. But as far as being a Super Gas racer and going back there racing Indy, it wasn't all that great. The pits they weren't very good, put it that way. And, it was all about the pro cars, which, that's what plays the bread and butter there, and you get to hang out and see that kind of thing. But you go a whole day where you don't even hit the track. I mean, it was kind of, so that's why I say Pomona's a little bit better. But as far as a milestone in the future, I would say hitting one of these bigger dollar bracket races. That would be really cool.
All right. Now, have you had any accidents or close calls in your drag racing career?
I've looped the car twice in the shutdown area, or right in the lights. Usually I'll take my foot off the gas before it gets, I'd rather race next weekend than have an accident. And if it starts getting, when it gets out of shape, you're going to lose the race anyhow, because the guy's going to beat you. But, I had a stalker we put together for my wife as a front wheel drive car, and she used to race it in the import series. So I ran stock with it, because back in the day you could run class eliminations and get like $600-700. Well, it was the only car in class, so I'd take that out and run it. And I got down on the brakes at the big end. I didn't think, my wife told me she was driving it, and she goes, man, you hit the brakes and they do funny things at the finish. And I'm like, nah, you just, you learn how to drive. So I nailed the brakes, and that thing instant sideways, and I was plastered against the window. I thought it was going to flip. And I just stared into it and grabbed the brake, and it come around on me, and I would just slid backwards. The second incident, which I thought I was going to lose my blue car, I was at Pomona one year, 2010, somewhere around there, and it was a time trial run. Our last time trial, or we had a time trial run, and then the next day we had a time trial run. And so I was buzzing it down there, and I went 990, and as soon as I stepped off the gas, the motor blew up. You know, went BLAP, and then just, you know. So I have a ritual when something goes wrong. I know where my kill switches are, the fuel, and I nail them right away. And about the same time I nailed them, I'd went 990, and the guy I was running, he had went 970. So he was up, you know, he was out there pretty far in me. I knew I'd kicked the rods out, and I flipped the fuel switch off, and I thought, man, just ease on the brake. And I looked up, and the guy that I was running was in my lane up on 2 tires. And I had to bury the brake, or I was gonna hit him. And so I buried the brake, and for about a half a second, it was fine. And then what had happened was when the motor let go, the counterweight hit the connecting rod and just sent that thing right out the bottom of the motor, and it ripped the stitching in the front of the bag, you know, the diaper, the engine diaper, and just opened it wide open, man. I mean, it hit at supersonic speed, and all that oil just dumped right out the front, and I was dead sideways in the lights, about 142, 145 miles an hour, and I just figured it was going to flip, you know, because, you know, they dig in really hard once you get them sideways there. And I just I thought, oh, man, I've crashed, you know. And something told me just, you know, fight with it. So I stared into it, and it didn't do anything. And then I took my foot off the brake. And once you take your foot off the brake, now the front tires could start turning. And now they're like rudders. So then the car came back. And I went, oh, I got it. Well, I was in my oil. And it went around, and then, I don't know, I did several 360s. And it spun out and spun out and spun across. And I could see the guardrail, center line, guardrail, center line, guardrail, center line. And I could tell the car is going across the track because the center line's getting farther and farther. And I'm just like, oh, man, I'm going to smack the guardrail. Just enough to murph everything up. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, it kind of slowed down, and I don't know if it slowed down and the oil kind of, you know, dried up, but it was spinning around, and then I caught it. It went sideways, and I caught it, and I was able to turn it straight. And I was about 5 foot from the guardrail, and then I stopped, man. The car was just filled up with smoke. Looked like a Cheech and Chong movie. I mean, there was just smoke everywhere. I opened the door, step out, and I couldn't believe. I was so happy that I didn't hit the guardrail. And so I you know, I would never won that race in Phoenix. You know what I mean? So that was kind of a really cool story.
Yeah.
You know, so it kind of gave me a deal to never give up. But no, it was. That's the only 2 close calls I've ever really had. You know what I mean? If there was a time machine, yeah, I'd take my logbooks with me back in time. You know.
Yeah. All right. So now, if you and the wife have time for a vacation,
2 or 3 days, and then, you know, I want to go racing or something like that. But rock and roll, I like all types of music. But the album, there's always different songs that just have that beat. Now there's the original one. Yeah, I like the original.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The original with the, you know, dong, dong, dong.
Well, I think he changed the lyrics to that song. Yeah, you know, I heard an interview. I listen to Ozzy's Boneyard a lot, you know, when I'm working at work. And, you know, I think he only knew Randy for like 2 years or something like that when he passed. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's, you know, there's things that work. Was division director at the time, and he says, "Hey, don't be going in there fighting and all this." I said, "No." I said, "This guy's saying all this shit," and I said, "He needs to be back in them days, you know." Never know.
Yeah, you never know.